10:30 in New York. I want to get back to the story. Breaking news from overseas. Getting a report now from the Interfax agency that Russia is giving Ukrainian forces in Crimea a deadline to surrender or face a storm of military action. Interfax also reporting that Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev and Vice President Joe Biden have talked on the phone about this situation as well. Congressman Michael Turner is a Republican out of Ohio, a member of the House Armed Services Committee. He's back home in Dayton, Ohio. And, sir, thank you for your time at the moment. I want to let's go on the headlines that we believe is happening now based this threat of military action within 24 hours. Based on what we think we know, what do you make of it?
Well, it's not really a surprise that the actions of Russia have clearly been that of a military invasion, Putin having asked for authority to use force. This clearly is a Putin-created crisis as Putin began to interfere in the affairs of Ukraine as they were trying to execute an agreement with the EU, with the president and the prime minister ultimately being removed and the Russian forces invading. You know, the Secretary of State, in the comments that you had played earlier, said this is not an east or west conflict, but clearly it is in Putin's eyes and in the eyes of Russia.
Mike Rogers on Sunday said Putin's running circles around the United States. What do you expect him to do?
Well, I think the president needs to significantly change the U.S. policy. He's based the policy on a belief that Russia, when they feel more secure, causes the world to feel more secure. And actually what we're seeing is the reverse. When Russia feels more secure, they begin to be more adventuresome. And that's what we see certainly playing out in Ukraine today.
So what does our president do?
Well, there's a couple things the president can do. One, he can strengthen our ties with NATO. He's been opposed to expansion of NATO in areas that have left the Ukraine, Georgia, Montenegro, and other nations on hold, if you will. He could move forward with strengthening those ties. He also could move to allow the export of U.S. natural gas that currently Russia is has a grip on Europe, where they are beholden to Russia, where they use it in their geopolitical leverage toolbox. We can, by entering into the opportunity to do that export, and make a difference economically and give our allies some additional freedom.
You know, there was a statement that came from a gentleman by the name of David Kramer. He worked for President Bush in the Department of State with regard to Russia and Ukraine. This is what he said: if the authoritarian tyrant Vladimir Putin is allowed to get away with his unprovoked attack against his neighbor, a blatant violation of that country's sovereignty and territorial integrity, then U.S. credibility, already damaged by Obama's poor handling of Syria, will be down to zero. Allies won't believe us, enemies won't fear us, and the world will be a much more dangerous place. I take it you don't disagree with that.
Absolutely. And even the Washington Post today says that the president's foreign policy is based on a fantasy. While the president has retreated, cut our military, cut our missile defense as a result of objections from Russia, even been caught in an open mic incident with Putin where he's negotiating secret deals, cut our nuclear weapons programs. He has signaled a retreat at a time when, certainly I think our allies would look to us for security.
Yeah, one more point on all this. Adam Kinzinger is a Republican colleague of yours out of Illinois. You know that gentleman as well. And he pretty much stated on Sunday that there's not a whole lot we can do to respond militarily. If that is the case, are our hands tied?
No. The president needs to change course here. And again, that's what people are seeing as a result of his policies. He's been implementing a policy both in foreign policy and in military policy based on that we have no adversaries, that Russia is not an adventurous or an aggressive state. He needs to turn about face. He needs to begin to strengthen our allies with NATO. He needs to strengthen our military, not reduce it. The effects of his sequester are certainly being seen by Russia on our forces. And so we're being perceived, probably rightly so, at this time, as being weaker than we normally are. Yeah, this president has abandoned policies of prior administrations.
I apologize for stepping on the end of your comment there. We'll see whether or not the president has a comment about this. Today's meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House. That meeting is still on, and if John Kerry's in Kiev later tonight, and into tomorrow on Tuesday, we'll see what sort of message and statement he makes then. It will be very interesting to parse the language and see where the statement is now. Sir, thank you for your time. Michael Turner, Republican from Ohio.
Thank you for having me.
In Dayton. Thank you.